South Africa's unemployment among young people currently stands at 46.5% for the year 2023. According to Statistics South Africa, the number of unemployed youth, these are people with matric, that stands at 35.2%. The highest percentage is found among black South Africans, followed by colored people, then Indians, and then white people. Critics blaming the country's education system. And let's speak now to the social entrepreneur and founder of Shahib, that is Maambele, Khosa. And she joins us now for this conversation. Ms. Khosa, thank you very much for your time. Can we begin with your analysis of what you are saying here, that the only way to fix youth unemployment is by fixing our broken education system? Contextualize that for us.
Thank you so much for having me, Polly. And I just want to say before I comment on that, that was actually an article piece by the Vice Dean of Teaching and Learning at Stellenbosch University. However, I do agree with his opinion. It was not really my opinion. I wouldn't really say that our education system is broken, because there are other skills or certain skills which are transferable, or skills that students actually get to learn in universities, not necessarily talking about high schools, which they actually can make use of, or which they actually come up to be skills that are useful for employment, or which put the students in a position that they are employable.
So, in your view, what is wrong with the South African education system? What makes it fit this description of a broken system that needs urgent fixing?
Like I said before, I cannot really agree with the fact that it's a completely broken system. However, I do partially agree that there are things that can be improved. For example, I am also still a postgraduate student at the University of Stellenbosch, and I believe that through collaboration between the academic institution, the government, and of course our corporate partners or the private sector or the private industry, through collaboration, there can be things that could help students at least be employable. That's what I can say. Yeah.
The options that should be available to young people for them to feel as though they are part of the South African society, what kind of opportunities should be made available to young people in order for them to feel like they are contributing to the well-being of the South African economic system?
I will say it's definitely access to resources, in a sense that as the youth of South Africa, I am also one of them, we should as well identify ourselves as part of the government and actually identify ourselves as resources that we should step up and at least play that role. I mean, I've been in many spaces where I would ask the youth or the students, how many of you are worried about who's going to employ you? And almost 90% in the room would raise their hands. But when the question now is reversed to saying, how many of you are actually worried that how many people can we employ, it's actually a limited number. So I'm raising this point to say, as much as yes, unemployment rate is high, more especially amongst the youth, we should also stand up and try to do something. I'm saying this as someone who's also an entrepreneur to say, with an entrepreneurial mindset, you actually become at least more employable, if I should say. So I say the solution could also be entrepreneurship, and in particular, social entrepreneurship. We have a lot of social issues in our country, and through social entrepreneurship, at least we know that we are solving a problem, but also generating profit, which can at least lead to our own economic growth.
So is there something to be said about the employability of young people in South Africa, or is that not a conversation at all?
It is definitely a conversation on its own. Employability doesn't necessarily involve one thing without the other. We are talking about transferable skills amongst the youth. What kind of skills that the school system or the university system actually equip us with for us to say we are ready to be employed or employability, as we can say. But at the same time, it's also about our own emotional intelligence, as we can see that one person can have a qualification but still not be employed. Is it because they are really not employable? Is it because there are lack of jobs, or is it because there's a lack of access to those jobs? So that's why this takes me back to a point of collaboration between the academic institution. What exactly are they equipping the students with? And at the same time, what exactly does the industry need? So there is this gap where we all know that, okay, we might be getting trained for something else which is different from what the industry need actually.
Yeah, and it's exactly a great point that you make, that the bridging of that skills gap, and the suggestion therefore is that educational institutions should perhaps partner with industry leaders so that they are able to produce the kind of skill that is needed by the South African economy at that point in time. Why is this not happening, though?
That's a good question. I wouldn't say it's not completely happening. I would say perhaps it's happening in small spaces or in smaller scales, in a sense that we do know that there's someone somewhere who's busy collaborating with a certain private company to make sure that their students get access to information, or they get learnerships or internships while they are studying. However, I would say maybe it's time where it's made mandatory to say, if people are in academic institutions, whether you're a lecturer or someone who's in a position to actually make decisions, it should be made mandatory or be part of the curriculum that the student needs to at least have some sort of experience while they are studying, or some sort of exposure to what's happening in the industry. And also perhaps from the industry side, it should be something that they are more intentional about it. It's like you're making an impact, but at the same time they are getting other work from students, but also giving back to the students as well in terms of experience. So I wouldn't say it's not happening. I would say it's happening, but perhaps at a smaller scale.
All right. Maambele Khosa is a social entrepreneur and founder of SheCab. Thank you very much for your contribution to this conversation.